A bottomless pit that brings things back from the dead, a mysterious government cover-up, and a man who vanished after revealing it all on late-night radio. No, this isn't the plot of a sci-fi movie. This is the legend of Mel's Hole. Hello friends, I'm Katie O'Loughlin, aka Madame Macabre, and welcome back to the Folklore Files, where I dig deep into creepy legends, haunted places, and all the things that go bump in the night. Today we'll be holding up a magnifying glass to my home state. Bumping shoulders with Canada, we're headed straight into the evergreen of Washington State. Now, it's totally possible that I'm biased here, but I have to say, this has got to be one of the weirdest folk legends I have ever heard. I am talking about Mel's Hole, a mysterious, supposedly bottomless pit out in the rolling hills of Ellensburg, Washington. The legend includes tales of impossible ice, undead dogs, and government agencies swooping in to shut things down faster than Agent Smith from The Matrix. So, fasten your tinfoil hats, friends, because this story is going straight down the rabbit hole.
On February 21st, 1997, a man calling himself Mel Waters phoned into the local late-night paranormal radio show Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell. This show hailed from the time long before streaming existed, so if you wanted your fix of eerie entertainment, turning to local radio shows such as this was often your answer. And boy, did Coast to Coast deliver. This show was a veritable treasure trove for enjoyers of all things weird. Ghosts, aliens, conspiracy theories, you name it, they covered it. But even Coast to Coast was thrown for a loop by Mel's story. You see, Mel said that he lived on the outskirts of a little town called Ellensburg, Washington, way out in the sticks, and he claimed that somewhere out in his rural property was a most peculiar hole in the ground. At first glance, this was nothing special. There was no fence blocking it off, no warning signs of danger. Heck, there wasn't even anything interesting to look at. But what made this hole of such particular interest, according to Mel, was that it was bottomless.
Rest in peace, Mel, you would have loved podcasts. In all seriousness though, this story goes so much deeper, pun intended, than a bottomless pit. According to Mel, that hole had been there for decades, even before he owned the land himself. Apparently, locals had used it as a dumping ground of sorts for all means of garbage for years. They'd toss any manner of things inside, old appliances, junk, even the occasional dead livestock. But no matter how they filled it over the years, it never truly filled up. Oddly enough, they always said that anything that went inside never made a sound. No splash, no thud, just complete silence. And so people began whispering about it simply being bottomless.
In time, Mel bought the property, and folks stopped going out there, but the stories persisted. Naturally, Mel caught wind of this strange, apparently bottomless pit he had inherited with his property and wanted to see for himself. And so, Mel took it upon himself to do a little experiment. He was going to measure the pit and see if it truly was bottomless. So, being an avid outdoorsman and fisherman, Mel used what he already had plenty of at hand: fishing line tied to a rock. And then he lowered it in. And he lowered it, and lowered it, and kept on lowering it. By his account, he dropped over 80,000 feet, or over 15 miles, and the dang thing still never hit bottom.
Sound a little fishy? It should. As far as I'm aware, the deepest hole ever drilled on Earth is the Kola super deep borehole in Russia. They had to stop drilling because the bits kept melting, and even then, that only went about 40,000 feet. So, either Mel stumbled across the greatest geographical find of the millennium, or something far stranger was going on.
Strange was just the beginning of it. You see, Mel claimed that in addition to impossible depths, the hole also had supernatural properties. He told Art Bell on Coast to Coast of a harrowing encounter a neighbor relayed to him. Apparently, the man claimed that once he had tossed his recently deceased hunting dog down into the pit. Later, the man claimed to have seen that same dog, alive and well. It was wandering the woods nearby. This understandably shocked the man. Not sure what else to do, he called for the dog. However, the dog would not come when called. It simply stared at him before slinking away into the woods, never to be seen again.
Not that I can blame the dog, because same. What do you mean your dog died and your first thought is to chuck it in the creepy bottomless pit? Pet cemetery shenanigans aside, rude. But no, we're not done yet. Oh no. Then there's the ice story.
Mel said that the more time he spent around the pit, the more curious he got. He began to try various experiments with it. He spoke of how one time he decided to lower a bucket of ice into the hole to see what would happen. All went well as he was lowering it down, but apparently when he pulled it back up, the ice was on fire. No, I don't mean it had melted. It was burning. Mel said it was lit up with an eerie blue flame that went out a few moments after being removed from the hole. Yet again, Mel claimed to have stumbled across another anomaly with this pit that seemed to defy science itself. Something like this was sure to make waves, and according to Mel, unfortunately, it did.
Not long after Mel claims he went public about his findings, things got even more suspicious. Mel said that the US government stepped in and actually seized his property. He was apparently approached by men in black suits and told he could no longer access the area due to national security.
He was allegedly offered a large payout and told to quietly leave the country. And according to Mel, that's exactly what he did. At least for a time. He packed up and moved to Australia before eventually resurfacing years later back in America with an even stranger update.
That's right, apparently Mel had inadvertently stumbled across yet another strange hole. Weird that he found two. This time deep in Nevada on property owned by the Basque people. This one, he said, was being actively used by the military. Apparently they were conducting strange experiments, unusual activity, black helicopters, the whole 9 yards.
And shortly after this, Mel completely fell off the radar, never making another strange claim. Suspicious? Yes. But also, I'm sure you can't help but start to feel as though some cracks are beginning to show, no?
Now, at this point, you're probably shaking your head at the screen saying, Katie, this is a lot, even for me. Are you sure there was ever any proof Mel's hole existed in the first place? Short answer? No, absolutely not. Comically so.
There's no official record of Mel Waters ever owning land near Ellensburg. No photos, no coordinates, no deeds, nothing. And as far as the hole, well, geologists say a pit that deep is, quite literally, geologically impossible. Such a thing would collapse under its own weight. Military units are regularly spotted out in rural Ellensburg, keeping an air of secrecy that could easily fuel such speculations. But the truth is, there's a military base in the area, and the rolling hillsides of the region are frequently used for training operations. Overall, skeptics believe the story was a complete hoax, or even a creative radio stunt. Although, that being said, a lack of proof hasn't stopped some people from still believing, especially the students of Ellensburg's Central Washington University. Tales of Mel's Hole have long been a thrilling talking point with excitable new students moving into the area. Many even claim to have been there and seen it themselves.
Despite defying all logic, the legend of Mel's Hole has persisted. The story lives on, not just as a spooky tale, but as a symbol of mystery in internet folklore. You'll find forums, Reddit threads, and YouTube videos dissecting everything Mel ever said.
Some say it's a cover-up of an ancient portal. Others think it's tied to indigenous spirit lore or even a government black ops. Whatever the truth may actually be, Mel's Hole is now a modern American myth, alongside the likes of Goatman's Bridge, the Devil's Stomping Grounds, and countless others.
So, do I believe Mel's Hole is real? Honestly? No, I don't. But I do love the story, and you better believe I help keep the legend alive by retelling it every chance I get. Why? Because strange and illogical as they may be, stories like this do actually matter. They spark curiosity, challenge logic, and remind us that the world can still be a really cool and weird place. Generations of students excitedly share tales just like this every year, making them an important part of the local culture, if not a true rite of passage. Mel's Hole may never really be found. Frankly, it likely never existed. But the legend endures because it speaks to the deeply human desire for mystery and excitement in a sometimes boring and predictable world. So, what do you guys think? Was Mel just an eccentric old dude with a wild imagination and an ungodly amount of fishing line? Or did he really stumble across something we weren't supposed to know about? Let me know your take in the comments below. I would love to hear your theories. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Washington State's weirdest legends, please leave this video a like and maybe even consider subscribing. I've got a lot more Folklore Files on the way, so be sure to stay tuned. Well, that is all until next time. I'm Katie O'Loughlin, and I want you to remember to stay curious and always stay creepy.